As a man, you're going to begin to you're going to begin to start experiencing things that most guys are not going to experience as far as women. You're going to start to experience the confidence, sexual confidence that we always talk about. You're going to start to experience uh, the way you approach is going to be different. The way you talk to women is going to be different. All these things are going to be things that you're going to experience. But there's something that's very important that you're also going to experience, and it is how having options is a great thing. You're gonna be happy to have millions of options because you're gonna be finally start to see yourself as the opportunity. But with that being said, sometimes the worst thing a man can have is options, and that's the one thing I want to talk to you about. You see, if you look at your life, especially looking at the game, there are certain stages, or we'll call it subjects, in which you're always looking at, unfortunately, options. And in this case, options is not a good thing, okay? There are your friends and family, there are situations, there is yourself and the woman as far as options go. And the biggest problem and biggest mistake is for men who don't understand the game is they're utilizing too many options versus having one law. You see, options for a person who doesn't know the game will always be the thing to hold him back from the game because he's looking at three things versus looking at one. Example, let's start with the woman. He sees a woman, he has three options that he always looks at. Do I go talk to her? Do I sit around and wait and then go talk to her? Or option number three, do I just walk away from it? For when you get in that situation, and this is where options are detrimental to most of you guys out there because you're so busy trying to figure out what option you should choose versus the one law you should have. This is why putting your bid in is so important. You see, when you see a woman, or as a man, when a man sees a woman that really knows the game, there are no options. There isn't, do I go talk to her? There isn't, do I wait? And there isn't, do I just not talk to her at all? When you know the game and you put your bid in, there isn't an option. It's only the law that you have for said situation. As a man, every situation that you have, what's important is you must be able to create the law that governs how you move. And whatever that law is that you use to govern how you move should just be done. Because it's what we call it. See, when you create the law is what we call a non-negotiable law. That means you cannot walk away from it. You cannot sit around and make excuses for it or find loopholes or find reasons or find options, because then it's not technically a law in which you're governing yourself by. And see, a man that doesn't have game is a man that is always going to look to his options. Go, wait, run, or what they call in those books, flight, fear, oh, is it flight, what is it? Fear, fight or fight or flight or something, or freeze or something, fight, flight, freeze or something like that. Same thing. Same exact thing. This is why it's important that instead of trying to be what somebody on YouTube wants you to be, instead of trying to mimic and copy somebody else, this is why we teach you game is so important as far as going after what you want. But the going after what you want has to start from home. See, even your situations with family and friends, let's go to them real quick and then get to the woman and yourself real quick. But even situations, your family and friends, is a lot of you guys allow people to walk all over you. You let your parents walk over you, your friends walk over you, and or you let people walk over because you're afraid of judgment. You're afraid of pissing people off. And see, when you are in a situation and you're looking at options versus looking at your law, you're always going to lose because women and situations and people are only going to respect the person that is clear, concise, and transparent. And if you're not clear, concise, and transparent to yourself first, then the situation you are always going to lose, especially with a woman. A woman doesn't want somebody that is sitting around looking at options. I don't know. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you. This is what I want. This is what I want to do. Period. That's it. That's law. Now, she does have the right to say no, and she has the right to give you a alternative answer or alternative a situation, like if you're going out and she can't make it at a certain time, she tells you she can't make it at a certain time, and she tells you, okay, we can't do it this time, that's something totally different. But my law is always going to be my one and only option. Even though you're going to have an option of women and an option of situations, every situation must be governed by you and the laws that you create for yourself. If you cannot govern how you move, then you're not going to win in this game. And that's the problem with so many of you guys, because you're governing yourself off of looks and beauty versus governing yourself off of what needs to get done. Only one law. There's no options. When I see you, only one option. When I text you, there's only a law in which I govern myself and how we talk to each other. And I'm setting up the date within the first 3 messages. That's law. I'm not sitting around waiting. I'm not bullshitting. As far as going out, my law is we are either going to go where I'm going to give her not the option of feeding the ducks coffee or ice cream. I'm going to choose which one I give her, and she's going to like it or not. And it's not my problem. She's allowed not to like it, and I'm also allowed to walk away. But in order for you to get this down, you must yourself, as a man, start to cultivate laws in which you govern yourself. Because if you cannot govern what comes out of your mouth, then she's not going to follow you. And that doesn't mean, and that's for any situations. If a friend comes to you and wants to borrow money, and you have the money to borrow it, you sit his ass down. You don't give him options of, well, you can give it to me later, or you can get you whenever you have it, and all this other bullshit. I want my money on this day. If the day is the 5th, I don't want it on the 6th. Don't come to me on the 7th. I want my shit on the 5th. Do we have an understanding? Because if I don't get it on the 5th, you and I are going to have a problem. Do you get that? And that's how you, and see, and people think that it's bad to talk to people that way. No, that's king shit. You don't give people options and wiggle room, and nor do you give yourself that. You have to live by a law, only one law for every situation. And whatever that law is, you must govern yourself by that one law. But in order to have that law, there are going to be step processes. Again, I told you just a few of them. You got to write the law down, and then you've got to sell it to yourself first. You got to believe in it, because if you don't believe in it, the other person isn't. So, what I'm saying to you guys to wrap this up, it is okay to have a million. Now, you're going to have millions of options when it comes to women, and you're going to have millions of things to do when it comes to women. But unless you govern yourself by one law, you're not going to ever be well in the game. And that, even in the approach, there is one way. There's always just one way of doing it. And that's putting my bid in. That's all I'm going to do is I'm not wasting my motherfucking time, nor should you. And it's something you need to think about when you're trying to get into this game. There will never be options when it comes to this game. There will always be one law.